Hello everyone, and welcome to another college football preview. So today we'll be looking at the Wisconsin Badgers. So this was a team last year that ended up finishing the season 7-6, and they kind of looked at trying to get back to that point where they're competing for kind of, in the hunt for a Big Ten title. Obviously, it's going to be a lot harder now that the East and West are gone, and it's just, top two teams. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot harder for them to get to that Big Ten championship game than it may have been, obviously with the old divisions. But either way, let's get to it. So, the Badgers are coached by Luke Fickell, who is entering his second full season as head coach. Technically, he did coach the bowl game in 2022, so it's technically his third year as Wisconsin head coach, which is really weird. But either way, so far he is 8-6 as the Badgers head coach. And now let's get to look at the projected key players and projected stats for both offense and defense. In terms of stats, I mean like overall points scored. But either way, at quarterback, the starting quarterback is projected to be Tyler Van Dyke. Obviously, he had a very up and down four seasons at Miami. Kind of never lived up to the hype that he was kind of brought in at. But hey, change of scenery can do a lot for a guy, for guys like that. But either way, he has a completion percentage of 65.8. He threw for 2,703 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. At running back, Chez Mellusi and Taiwan Walker are their projected top two backs. Lucy last year had 51 carries for 307 yards and 4 touchdowns. Meanwhile, Walker last year at Oklahoma had 102 carries for 513 yards and 7 touchdowns. At wide receiver, their top 3 options are Will Pauling, Bryson Green, and Quincy Burrows. Pauling last year had 74 receptions for 837 yards and 6 touchdowns. Bryson Green had 32 receptions for 480 yards and 2 touchdowns. And finally, Quincy Burrows last year had 4 receptions for 30 yards. At tight end, Riley Noreski is projected to be their top option. Last year, he had 7 receptions for 57 yards and a touchdown. And on offense, the Badgers, according to Phil Steele's projections, should score about 28.6 points per game and 397.8 yards total offense. On defense, the Badgers bring back Hunter Waller, who led the team with 120 tackles last year. They also return sack leader Darrell Peterson. He had 4.5. And they also bring back their leading interception man, Ricardo Holman, who had 77 interceptions last year. Defensively, the Badgers are projected to give up 21.3 points and 316.4 yards of total offense per game. Now let's go ahead and look at the schedule for the Badgers. Obviously, the Badgers end up having a tougher schedule, obviously playing in the Big Ten and having a very tough non-conference opponent. But we'll look at that. We'll get to that here in a second. Their total strength of schedule is about 20th, and projected to be about 20th in the country. But either way, let's look at that Let's look at that schedule. Obviously, it starts off with August 31st. They get a 2017 Cotton Bowl rematch against the Western Michigan Broncos. Obviously, that isn't going to be too tough. Obviously, 2017 Cotton Bowl was the year that Western Michigan came into that game undefeated when P.J. Fleck was their coach, and then he would obviously have to go to Minnesota. Then on September 7th, they play FCS opponent South Dakota before having to play what could be, a very good game. Obviously, it being at Camp Randall, being the Alabama Crimson Tide. I think this will be a great game for Wisconsin. Not only do you get to play a marquee opponent in Alabama at home, but it's a good measuring stick game. Okay, it'll give a chance to see, are we really where we want to be, which for Wisconsin is going to be competing for a Big Ten title. So if you can go toe-to-toe with Alabama, then that means, hey, you're on the right track. Here, sorry guys, I'm going to adjust the camera a little bit. But either way, yeah. So that should be a great game for that reason. Anyway, next, after a bye, they get to head to LA to face off against the USC Trojans at the Coliseum. This should be another great game. That game's on September 28th. Then the Badgers return to Camp Randall on October 5th to face off against Purdue. Then on October 12th, it's off to Jersey to face off against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. And then on October 19th, they head to Evanston to face off against Northwestern. In recent time visits to Evanston, Wisconsin necessarily hadn't done the best, so it'll be a chance to kind of reverse that trend. And speaking of reversing trends, the next game they have is against Penn State, who they have lost 5 in a row to. So yeah, definitely want to reverse that one, definitely. And obviously that'll be a good big game in terms of Big Ten championship contention, obviously. And Penn State, it's another game where if it's a good game to prove that, hey, you've turned a corner, because Penn State's a team that most likely will be competing to get one of those playoff spots. Then after that, they go on the road to face off against Iowa in Iowa City and battle for the Heartland Trophy. Then on November 16th, they get their second bye, and then they welcome, or well, I guess November 16th is after their second bye, and they get to welcome the Oregon Ducks to Camp Randall for the first time as a Big Ten foe. This will not be the first time these two teams have played. Obviously, they've matched up in the Rose Bowl a couple times over the last, 10, 15 years or so. 2020 being the 2020 Rose Bowl being the last time where Oregon ended up winning 28-27. What's kind of weird about this series history, though, is that Wisconsin won the first three, and then Oregon has won the last three after that. So kind of very back and forth, and hey, kind of a game 7, so to say, right? But either way, then they hit the road one last time to battle the Cornhuskers of Nebraska. They have beaten Nebraska 9 times in a row, so they'll be looking to make it a perfect 10 out of 10. Then it's senior day at Camp Randall on November 30th as they battle Minnesota for Paul Bunyan's Axe, in which this game's always been kind of interesting, kind of produced some weird results, so we'll have to see if that does that again this year. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Anyway, and also if you have any suggestions on who I should do next, go ahead and leave that in the comments. That's always appreciated, and it'll help me out to know what kind of, plus it also helps to know who's a fan of who, so I can kind of cater more to that. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and see you next time. Bye.